الحمد لله رب الخلائق أجمعين، وصلى الله وسلم على رسوله محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه وسائر المهتدين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the second lesson of the Quran Tajweed course, which is we're still in the warm-up phase, and next week inshallah we'll start with studying the ahkam. And this lesson is just going to be a short lesson, which will just go briefly over the things that must be known before going ahead. But just before we start the lesson, I would just like to do a quick recap of what we did last week. Last week, we discussed what Tajweed means. We gave it two definitions, one lughatan and the other is istilahan. We said lughatan means linguistically. So linguistically, Tajweed means to perfect something or master something. And istilahan, as in how it is used by the scholars, we say Tajweed means to recite the Quran how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam recited it, or to give each letter its due right. And then we went through the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, and the saying of Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah. And then we discussed how this science came about, or why did this science come about, as in why these terms were made. So now that we're all caught up, we're going to start with the first thing of this second lesson, which is the harakat. Harakat are vowels. They are vowels placed on letters for multiple purposes. Fatha being the A sound, and the kasra and the dhamma being the U sound, and the kasra being the E sound. For multiple purposes, as in for example, when you open Arabic books other than the Quran, because the Quran has harakat all over the words. But if you open any other Arabic book, you'll notice there are no harakat. Why? Because the Arabs don't need harakat to understand the meaning of a word. Harakat will only be used by the author if he's afraid that the person reading will understand another word or another definition of the word, because harakat give the same word different meanings. For example, you have al-jaddu wal-jiddu wal-juddu. Al-jaddu being your grandfather. Al-jiddu means the opposite of procrastination, the opposite of being lazy. And al-juddu is some kind of well. I'm not sure, I don't remember what kind of well it is, but some kind of well, I think that has a lot of grass around it, or something like that. Another example is as-salam was-sinam was-sunam. As-salam means peace, like as-salam alaykum. Was-sinam means the ism al-hijara, name of a rock. Was-sunam is al-arqu fi al-kaf, the joints in your hands. And for more examples about this, you could go or check out Muthallath Qutrub, where the author rahimahullah would discuss or define words with different harakat in a poem kind of format. As for the other one, other category, is the sukun. Sukun is a special case, because sukun is pronouncing the letter in its original form. The fatha, dhamma, and kasra, no matter what the letter is, they have the same period of pronunciation. But as for the sukun, it depends on the letter, they differ. Some letters take longer to pronounce, halat al-sukun, in the state of sukun, and the others shorter to pronounce in sukun as well. And another difference is that the properties of a letter are weak in the harakat and fatha, dhamma, and kasra than the sukun, or weak or not as strong, you could say. For example, the ghunna, which is the nostril sound, we'll discuss it later inshallah. The ghunna, which is the nostril sound, which comes from the nostril, the nose. In the noon, as-sakina becomes stronger or more apparent than the one in the haraka, noon with fatha or dhamma or kasra. And other examples, but sukun is different than fatha, dhamma, and kasra. And then we have ash-shadda. Ash-shadda, basically, if a word has shadda, that means, if you deconstruct it, it means that the word consists of harf sakin and harf mutaharrik, the same letter with sukun, and next to it is the same letter with haraka. You see dal al-mushaddada, fatha on top. It means that it's dal first. If you deconstruct it, it's dal with sukun and then dal with fatha. Another example is at-taghabun. At-taghabun, you see the ta with shadda means ta with sukun and then with haraka. Ad-dallin, Dad with shadda and lam with shadda, that means ضاد with سكون and the other ضاد with حركة. Same with the لام, سكون and then حركة. So that's what it means. It means first حرف ساكن and بعدها حرف متحرك. And you see here last example, the noon and the meme. First is حرف ساكن and then حرف متحرك. And I would like to add or mention here the غنة. The غنة, I mentioned before that it is the nostril sound coming from the nose, which only the noon and the meme have. But the only letters that have غنة or produce غنة are the noon and the meme by themselves. The other letters only produce sound without غنة. So that's what غنة means. It means the nostril sound. It's only the noon and the meme by themselves, the only letters that have it. And now we move to التنوين. التنوين is giving the word a noon sakin at the end and placing the haraka on it to the letter before it, as in the haraka on the يعني تنوين. For example here, تنوين with ضمة means we put ضمة, placing the haraka on it, as in here, to the letter before it, as in the ba. We put a noon sakina and then before it is the haraka. Same with here, nasuha. If you're gonna stop on it, is mad iwad. But if you're actually not gonna stop on it, you say nasuhan, like this. Now if you ask why don't we have an alif here, like why don't we pronounce it nasuhan like this? I mean, the reason, I didn't come across the reason, but the Arabs don't pronounce it like this, because this is alif middiya. So we just say nasuhan, we don't say nasuhan like this. And if you look at the masahif, you'll notice this is actually on the ha, not on the alif, but I put it here just demonstration, for demonstration purposes. But it's actually in the masahif, you notice it's on the ha. And then we have nasabun, we put a nun sakin at the end, and the dhamma put it on the ba. So nasabun. Dhakarin, we put a nun sakin at the end and a kasra on the letter before it, which is the ra. So this is the end of the warm-up phase. And inshallah next week we're gonna be discussing أحكام النون الساكن والتنوين. بارك الله فيكم ونفع بكم الأمة. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.